What is up, everybody? It is JJ Buckets, and today I am joined by the one and only the Waraich Report. What's up, my man?
How's it going?
And not too bad. Scorcher in Toronto today, as we are filming this on Wednesday night. For those that don't, I guess, live in this city, it was like 34 today, and with obviously humidity, it was disgustingly worse than 34. But that's not why we're here today. We're not here to talk about the weather. We are here, obviously, as usual. Of course, we are to talk Raptors. I don't know. It might have been given away by the fact that we have one, two, three, four, five pieces of some kind of like collectibles and memorabilia in the background there. But yeah, we are here to talk Raptors. We are here to talk about the NBA draft. Of course, we are. It is like quite literally, I think, a week away, if I'm not mistaken. Or yeah, no.
Yep, 7 days.
Away.
Yep, 7 days.
Yes,
Yep.
7 days away. And with that in mind, we are going to talk about who we think the Raptors should select with the number 33 pick. Now, obviously, for this situation, we're going to assume that like some of those like late first round guys that we may potentially be eyeing could slip into the second round there where the Raptors are picking. So, best case scenario type of thing. I mean, obviously, we're not going to sit here and be like, oh, yeah, Chet Holmgren is going to take a slide and then he'll be
I was
there.
just about to throw that name out there.
But, if there's a chance that a late first rounder slips there in this hypothetical, we're going to hopefully assume that he's there. Or even hell, we can assume that maybe the Raptors trade some sort of assets to move up a couple of picks if there's somebody that they really like. So with that in mind, we are going to tell you who we like here. And before we do that, make sure you are subscribing both to my channel and to the Waraich Report. He's fantastic. I'd like to think I'm pretty okay too. So just hit that subscribe button. And with that being said, let's talk basketball. Let's talk NBA draft and Waraich, because I'm actually a little unfamiliar with your name here. Give us the rundown.
All right, so this one I keep mixing up his name because I'm so tempted to say Ismael Wainwright. Obviously, that's not the player the Raptors are drafting, but this is also another Ishmael. This is Ismael Kamagate. I could be mispronouncing his name here, but he played in the French league. Very interesting prospect. He's listed at about, I believe, 6'11". Some sites have him listed at 7 feet. He's about 225, 230 pounds, and he's very raw. Like when you take a look at his stats, he's not putting up huge numbers. He's only averaging, I think, 1.6 blocks, which is obviously really good. But the thing about him is the ceiling is unbelievable. And when we talk about the Raptors, the one thing we talk about is the fact that they love their international talent, but they also choose players, not ones that can come in and immediately impact the Raptors and maybe be a bench player, but they look for players that can develop into something really nice. And I believe Ismael Kamagate will be that player. If the Raptors do have him at the 33rd spot, they're definitely going to take him. He's a good defender. He's very mobile. He's able to switch onto different defenders. And his offense is a little bit stagnant. He obviously does not have a great offensive game. But like we discussed before we even made this video, JJ, is the fact that the Raptors don't necessarily need their big man to score a lot of points. They need someone who can rebound, who can block shots. He's a really good defender as well. So that's what you're getting from Ismael Kamagate. He's a very impressive player, and it goes a little bit unnoticed because, like we talk about all the time, is international talent doesn't always get recognized by the NBA because obviously there's so many leagues out there. There's so many players who scouts, and sometimes they go a little bit unnoticed. And Ishmael Wainwright, there we go. I said Ishmael Wainwright. Ishmael Kamagate is actually a player the Raptors have worked out, and they have also sent scouts over to France to watch him as well. So that just gives you an idea of how high they are on Ismael Kamagate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting way. Interesting name. I was about to say Wainwright. And if I'm being quite frank, not one that I've paid a super big amount of attention to, which is why I was very curious to, hear your thoughts on him. Now, as far as the raw parts of his game, because you did mention the offensive skill set is very raw, how confident are you that those, are things that are coachable and could be improved upon, if the Raptors were to select him?
Again, it's one of those things like when you're talking about obviously players that the Raptors draft and also one that needs a lot of development, that's going to be Ismael Kamagate. Obviously, he seems like he's a humble player. He doesn't seem to have that ego about him, and he's very coachable, and he's very likely, probably realistically, going to spend at the very least, one full season in the G League and then maybe see some minutes. But he's probably about 3 to 5 years away from having a real positive impact. So he's again, I don't want to hype him up to be this big, center out of France that's going to come in and help the Raptors win a championship. Of course, with centers normally they take about 3 to 5 seasons, but I think some of the tools are there. That's the most important thing with Ishmael is that tools are there, and the Raptors could definitely work with him. And again, I use this example all the time, but we talk about Scotty Barnes not having a shot. We talk about Pascal not being a shooter once he came in, and look how much both of those players have improved. So I think his offensive game is not, again, it's a little bit different with big men these days because you're not asking them to post up in the paint and have Hakeem like moves. Those aren't what you're necessarily asking from big men. You're more so asking them to defend different positions. You're asking them to shoot the 3-point ball, which by the way, he doesn't shoot at all. So those are just some of the things the Raptors will have to work with in terms of if they do draft Ismael Kamagate. And again, he is very raw offensively, so you can't expect to, bring him in and expect him to put up big numbers, but he is a good defender. And I think defense is one of those things that are not only hard to teach, but those are one of those things that can most likely stick with you from college to when you enter the NBA. Obviously, you're not going to have the same impact as you would because the NBA has bigger and more talented players. But I think those are one of those things that stick with players and they develop more and more defensively. So I think his big main thing is defense, and obviously his height and his switchability are some of his best assets. And the games or the part of his game that he does really need to work on is ones that Raptors have obviously, amazing at working on with some of the guys who are non-shooters and working with. So I think developing his 3-point shot just developing a jump shot just to start with would be one of the biggest things. And I think the Raptors could definitely do that.
Mm-hmm. There was one point where you were describing him there where when you were talking about him being like 3 to 5 years away, I don't know why it just gave me shades and memories of Bruno Caboclo. It's like I'm sitting here and I'm just like, all I'm hearing is he's 2 years away from being 2 years away.
This guy is probably 3 years away from being, so no, the ceiling is unbelievable. Again, he's very raw. He's not very talented when we talk about different prospects. And I think when we talk about this, like I said earlier, the Raptors I want to use this player, for example. I know we're going a little bit off topic here, JJ, but Julian Champagnie is a player a lot of people have talked about in terms of, him being that guy. And realistically speaking, if the Raptors did draft someone like a Julian Champagnie, that he could come in and have a pretty decent impact right off the bat with the Raptors. But the thing is, at the best, he's probably realistically going to be a 7th, 8th, 9th man off the bench for his career. He's never going to be a starter realistically. And with Raptors draft picks, given the history, they're looking for players that are more raw and have an unbelievable ceiling. And I think that's Ismael Kamagate.
Interesting. Okay. So I do like that we're at least thinking very like-minded when it comes to the prospects, because I'm also eyeing a big man. And I'm also looking at a big man that I would consider a quality defender. And for obviously those of you that keep up with my channel regularly and are subscribed, you've probably already seen this video and you've seen me briefly touch upon it. Today, I fully dive into it. We are talking Jalen Williams. Jalen Williams is my guy for this NBA draft. Now, there's definitely things to like. And quite frankly, I even remember seeing, I think me and you were talking about this earlier, but I remember seeing, people making the case for why he should go back to school because he could be a better prospect coming out of the draft potentially next year, which obviously I think that gives you, a confident feeling, I would say, so to speak, that this is a guy that, is developable. I don't know if that's a word, but you know exactly what I mean. This is a guy that can obviously be worked on, and this is a guy that's gonna get better for sure. And why not get better with the Raptors? And in particular, whereas you're talking about a player that, is raw and obviously, arguably you could say has a higher ceiling, maybe. I think Williams is somebody that can actually be a immediate contributor for the Raptors, where there are things to his game in particular already that I think are good enough that he could get some kind of rotational minutes off the bench there. I'm not talking about big minutes, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not saying he's going to be getting 25 off the bench or he's going to be starting with the unit there, but he has at least a couple of things that really make me believe he can make an impact early for the Raptors. One is the thing you were talking about with your man. I'm also going to talk about here with my man, but in a little bit different, I guess, circumstances in terms of what makes him good on that end. Defensively, I think he is very good. He is somebody that is a fantastic help defender, in my opinion. The thing that obviously everybody loves to talk about, and for good reason with him, is the charges taken. He is very good at beating the person to the spot, drawing that charge, and that's immediately such a big lift for your team because you're getting the ball back. That possession is going to switch over right away. So that is obviously a big thing right off the bat. But just in general, his positioning on those help like moments where he's going to come in and help, and obviously even take those charges sometimes, his positioning is fantastic. He has really good hands as well, I think, defensively in terms of contesting shots. Just as a rim protector, like this guy can do a little bit of everything, even if you're not glamorized, I guess, by it sometimes. But just like he does a lot so well where it gives him an immediate chance to kind of have that impact in terms of, say, you're going to have certain matchups where you really need a guy that'll, go after some of these centers. And hell, even if we're talking about for like 10 minutes, just give them a hard time. I think Jalen Williams has that chance. And the other thing that I think really, really stands out about Williams is his passing ability. So as far as Jalen Williams' passing ability goes, if I'm not mistaken, I believe the numbers were just 2.7 assists per game. But when you actually throw on the tape, there are a lot of encouraging signs there. Like there was a good few moments where I was watching the way he was passing at the top of the key, finding guys both on cuts and, spacing out for like threes for good looks. He reminded me a little bit of Marc Gasol. And in that sense, like it was very, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying he's Marc Gasol, but I'm just saying that passing ability that he can have at the top of the key is something that Marc was definitely doing in this offense while he was here and doing very successfully. And obviously the Raptors won a championship based off it. Now, am I saying that this man's passing ability is going to be the reason that the Raptors win a championship? Actually, you never know how the future is going to go. So don't quote me either way on that one. But yeah, like Jalen Williams' passing ability, I think is something that can really potentially open up the offense a little bit. I think obviously as he improves in the NBA, as he gets more comfortable, this is a guy that, coming off the bench unit, like you're going to have him coming in and you can actually look to him to create some looks for those bench scorers or even for the starters that are staying in there and running minutes with him. He's a guy that's going to get offense probably a little bit, I would honestly even say a little bit better for others than for himself. And then obviously like other guys can like set him up and turn there. Like there's a lot to like, in my opinion. I know I've been ranting for a little bit here. Those are the two big standouts to me. And like, yes, he has some weaknesses and I'm sure you'll question me about it in a second. But as far as his strengths go, he's a guy that I see as having a chance to be an immediate contributor for the Raptors, as well as somebody that, 3 to 4 years from now is going to be a sincerely improved player and will have an even more prominent role with this Toronto team.
So JJ, I'm not gonna lie, like you said, you haven't looked into my prospect. I haven't looked a lot into Jay Williams as well. I know you were one of the first YouTubers, I believe, Raptors YouTubers to mention his name. And I was amazed because once you said that, it just took off. You saw a lot of different YouTubers just talk about Jalen Williams. But based off of what you have told me, it almost sounds like he is he's like a Kyle Lowry in a center's body, So like in terms of charges, in terms of passes, doing the right things, right? So
it's actually funny because I've definitely seen that tweet made before where at least in terms of the charges, like people were talking about, this is Kyle Lowry in a setter's body and stuff like that on Raptors social media stuff and whatnot. So I definitely like the knack and the instinct that he has for drawing charges is actually just, I don't want to say otherworldly, but like it's something that is very hard, I think, to just replicate if you're just any given player, I'd say, in the NBA. It's a really weird, like specifically niche gift. But like when you're getting that out of your center, who's obviously gonna be in those positions to play help defense a lot, like a lot of the times, like I was saying, those charges are immediately, offensive possessions back the other way for your team. So you love that. It immediately stops the defensive possession. It shuts it down in its tracks. And you get the trade-off of immediately going to offense. Yeah, like I like the guy. I do. I'm sure you could tell I like the guy. I'd be lying if I said he was a perfect prospect. I do think he has his weaknesses. I don't think creating for himself is not a strength of his, but I do believe on this Toronto team, you have enough guys between Scotty, between Fred, between Pascal Siakam that are good enough playmakers where I don't think, you're really asking Jalen Williams to come off the bench and be like the main creator there. I'm pretty sure one of those guys will be in that lineup and will be, helping him hunt for that offense. And naturally, I think he needs to improve as a shooter a little bit too. If I'm not mistaken, he shot in the high 20s, I believe.
20, I have the statistics right in front of me. I believe he shot
27,
23% actually from the
Jeez.
3-point line, 23.9. So
yeah, he's not a great shooter, but he's not a bad free throw shooter, which if you watched me, do all of the draft videos for the prospects last year, when obviously the Raptors had a much higher pick than they do this year, I always think that free throw shooting is a good barometer for a guy's shooting capabilities. I think if you're a decent enough free throw shooter, then you can be developed as a shooter overall. And I do think he has that chance. Like, shooting in general, I think is one of those things, especially with the Raptors, like you were talking about earlier, like you can work on that. You can definitely add that to your game. Like you think about all these guys, like you said, like a Pascal, even I don't believe you mentioned his name earlier, but even OG wasn't the most, sound shooter when he showed up here in Toronto. Yep. He was also similarly a fairly raw prospect. And now he's a knockdown 3-point. Oh, knockdown might be a stretch, but he's a very good 3-point shooter, obviously. So like that's something that I think can easily be developed in his game. And the last thing, if I'm being quite honest, in terms of just weaknesses, that I think this one's not necessarily as developable or as coachable, but I don't think he's the most athletic dude on the planet. I think he's more fundamentally sound as a player than he is, just a natural athlete. But I'm willing to kind of look the other way on that one. Athleticism isn't always the most important thing in the world. I mean, you have a chubby Slovenian boy stunting on this league. And hey, actually, are they trying to remember what Nikola Jokic's background? It's Serbian. That's the one too. Serbian. You also have a chubby Serbian boy stunting on the league as well. So basically all I'm saying is just like you can get by without not without athleticism. You can compensate for not being the greatest athlete in the world if you're skilled enough. And I think Jalen Williams has a chance, already has a lot of good skills, and it has a chance to develop even more. So I'm willing to kind of look the other way on that one.
So JJ, I had to look this up because I could not remember his name. But based off just what you have said, and again, I'm just going off his like height and weight. He actually reminds me of a player. You're gonna laugh at this one, but Boston Celtics, Grant Williams, based off his lack of athleticism. Again, I don't know how that comparison is because, like I said, I haven't looked too much into Jalen Williams. But in terms of being like a sound defender, lacking a little bit of athleticism, and of course, we see that with Grant Williams. He's a little bit chubby. Again, I don't know what his body type is, but I don't know why that name came to my mind. But I don't know how those comparisons are. But you got to tell me. We're going a little bit off topic here, but.
I wouldn't I think Jalen Williams is a bit more of a natural 5-man than a Grant Williams is.
A taller Grant Williams.
I kind of see what you're grasping at a little bit there in terms of
just like taking charges, being being a decent defender. I mean, Grant Williams is a decent defender, so
yeah, it's just funny because I feel like the word chubby has just been thrown around so much. It's just stuck in my head.
That's why that name was coming around, and you said chubby. I was like, oh, this is just perfect stuff.
But I was thinking of but I was just joking. I'm saying I was just thinking of the chubby Slovenian boys that are or Slovenian boy stunting on the Phoenix Suns, and the other chubby boy that's carrying that god awful Nuggets team this season. Sorry, this is completely off topic. But yeah, your word of the day, folks, is chubby. Don't worry if you're chubby. You could still potentially make the league and dominate it. But yeah, I feel like as far as draft prospects go, for the most part, we've made our cases for both of our guys. And at this point, all that's left is for the comment section to tell us which of our players they like more. So with all that in mind, folks, if you're still here and you're still watching the video, thank you. Go straight to the comment section. Tell us which of our prospects do you like more. if you have a third prospect that you like even more than either of these guys, or you want to just say hello, whatever the case is, drop it in the comments. I will reiterate what I said at the beginning of the video. Make sure you're subscribing to myself and the Waraich Report. Again, he makes fantastic content. I think I'm all right. I think I'm good.
You make pretty good content as well.
I do things. I definitely do things. So yeah, make sure you're subscribing. I don't think I've mentioned hitting a like on the video is very important as well in terms of how it performs with the algorithm. So it takes like a second. Do that as well. And I just, while I'm here, Waraich, once again, thank you for joining me. It is always a pleasure. I really enjoy it when you come around on this channel.
No, absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's always fun discussing basketball with you. And, you know, it just always goes off a little bit off topic and we have fun with it. But thank you for having me.
Honestly, as far as our usual videos go, I think we actually managed to steer more on topic than we normally do. So I see this as an absolute win.
Absolutely.
All right, everyone. It's been real, but it's been JJ Buckets and the Waraich Report. And for the day, we are signing off.